This is Apple Intelligence, and Apple's been hyping it up as the next big thing in smartphone innovation. But after spending some time with it, I can't help but feel underwhelmed. What was supposed to be a game changer feels incomplete and outdated. So is Apple Intelligence a glimpse of the future or a polished version of yesterday's tech? Let's dive in and find out. Starting with notification summary. This is a great idea on paper, grouping notifications into a neat summary to save you time. But in practice, it's a hit or miss. Sometimes it works, but more often than not, the summaries lack context, and I find myself having to check the actual notifications anyway. I've personally yet to see summaries that are patently false or worded in a manner that I would describe as janky, but other users have. So much so, there is a subreddit called Apple Intelligence Fails. The problem has gotten so bad that Apple had to disable summaries from the News app after it showed false and misleading information. The other problem I encountered was consistency. Sometimes I would get summarized notifications from some apps, but not others. For example, I have seen summaries from the News app, but never seen a summarized version of a text message thread or notifications from my weather app. Apple clearly needs to put more work into testing this feature before it goes back out into the wild. Next up is Siri. Apple gave Siri a makeover, and for a moment I actually thought this might be the assistant we've all been waiting for. The visual overhaul makes it look more interactive, it envelops the screen when you say Siri, and it feels like voice recognition is better when you speak naturally. Like, you can ask Siri to send a text or open an app in a natural fashion, and it will follow your commands quite smoothly. But then you kind of hit a wall. For example, I asked Siri for the sunset time for a future date, and it just couldn't do it. Then I tried something a little more advanced, like solving an algebraic equation, and Siri pointed me straight to ChatGPT. Now, I know that solving algebra sounds like a silly request, but isn't that the point? An assistant like Siri is supposed to handle all manner of requests and point you in the right direction. So why didn't it just point me to ChatGPT for the sunset time question as well? This inconsistency is frustrating because it undermines Siri's potential as a productivity tool. If I'm making a request, I expect an answer, not a roadblock, even if that means going to ChatGPT. My suggestion to Apple is to be more transparent about what Siri can and cannot do. Set expectations clearly. In fact, why not just default to ChatGPT for anything that Siri can't handle? At the same time, why not offer a 1-year free subscription to ChatGPT? That way, users would have access to a much more capable assistant for complex tasks. To summarize, while Siri is still an improvement compared to previous versions, it still lags behind the competition. Next up is Image Playground. This is an app that was promised as a fun new tool. For example, I asked it to generate an avatar using an actual photo of me. Right out of the gate, the images are kind of bland, and the generator struggled to make sense of my inputs. When I asked it to generate an image of me without a smile, it couldn't do it. When I gave it instructions to make me look annoyed, it still couldn't get it right. The results were frankly depressing. These images could have easily been generated by DALL-E from 2 years ago. And speaking of performance, let's just say that it's not great. The image generation was a drain on my battery and made my phone warm to the touch. I guess I shouldn't be surprised because this is a resource-heavy feature and it's pushing the limits of my iPhone. So here's the question to Apple. Why even do this on device? I get that Apple's focusing on privacy by keeping everything local, but the reality is that this feature might be too demanding. I would like to see Apple offer an option to offload the heavy lifting to the cloud. That way we would get high-quality images without burning through our battery. If privacy is the goal, there could still be ways to make this work more efficiently. Hopefully we get there because I do think this app has potential. Now, not everything in Apple Intelligence is a miss. One feature I genuinely like is the cleanup tool in the Photos app. It's simple to use, just tap the object or person you want to remove from a photo, and it does a surprisingly good job. In one photo, I was able to remove a person with just one stroke. Impressive, right? But there is one catch I was able to find. It doesn't understand shadows. If I zoom into the image where the person was standing, there is a shadow in the snow which the cleanup tool did not correct. It's not a huge deal, but it's a limitation. And considering the state of this tech, I'm willing to cut Apple some slack, though I wouldn't classify this as an AI feature just yet. Another feature I find genuinely useful is writing tools. As someone making these type of videos, I do a fair amount of writing, and tools that help me summarize articles or flesh out ideas are very useful. I routinely use the writing tool to proofread, rewrite, or summarize scripts. It's a great way to make sure my writing is of decent quality and has logical consistency. And more importantly, make sure I'm getting my points across succinctly without too much rambling. But there are a few suggestions for improvement. At the moment, the writing tool is a single request operation. It would be great to have a ChatGPT style window open up where you can have a conversation to iterate through multiple changes and build upon previous requests. Other than that, I think Apple did a fantastic job here. And finally, I want to quickly cover visual intelligence. With iOS 18.2, if you press and hold the camera button, you'll get visual intelligence. Snap a picture of something you're interested in and tap search to crawl the internet using Google to find that item or something similar. This feature is reminiscent of Google Lens. Definitely useful, but nothing novel. With all that said, let me take a step back and summarize my take on Apple Intelligence. From its introduction, Apple's marketing has been on full blast promoting Apple Intelligence, like this was some sort of transformational piece of technology. But the truth is, it's incomplete, unrefined, and slower than it needs to be. It feels incomplete because Apple has been releasing these features over an extended time frame. I like to think of myself as being informed on what's happening in tech, but even I struggle to keep track of which features have been released and which ones are still pending. And when they do release a feature, most of it is still in beta. And the reason why it feels slow is because a lot of the features are running locally on device. There's a clear trade-off here. It's compromising performance for privacy, and right now that balance doesn't feel right. So what's the takeaway? Apple Intelligence has potential, but for now, this whole experience has left me feeling frustrated. It's objectively lacking. I'm not using it that much, and I'll probably turn it off until Apple works out the kinks. And I most certainly cannot recommend it in its current state. Ironically, maybe the biggest win from all of this is that it pushed Apple to make 16 gigabytes of RAM as standard on the MacBook lineup. Now, if only they could also make 1 terabyte of SSD the standard as well. With that said, what do you think of Apple Intelligence? Are you using it or are you waiting for it to get better? Let me know in the comments. If you found this video useful, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next video.